Just 2 more left after this. So, grappling with a guardian. So, I gotta be honest with you. I have to disagree with people who say that Atem did not learn his lesson in this arc. That there is no growth on Atem. And I know I'm the jackass who said, Seto did, that Kaiba didn't grow at all. But in total contrast to that, since I actually brought it up as my frickin' webcam goes out of focus. Ugh, as I keep trying to adjust my frickin' webcam, I don't know what the hell's up with this thing. Ugh. But we'll figure all that out later. Anyways, words. Where was I? Right. Let's talk about... But now we gotta talk about grappling with a guardian. And the first thing I want to talk about is the whole point of Rafael... of refuting Rafael's thing. I don't think there's a contradiction here like some do. I don't. Because the whole point with Rafael was not wasn't actually a giant takedown of Atem like some people claim. No, I think people were projecting if they thought that was it. Right? It's more a case of they thought that's what was happening because of their interpretation. My interpretation is obviously different. My interpretation is exactly what the subtitles, say it is. The Crunchyroll subtitles say it is. There is darkness in everyone's heart, which means there is potential for people to act upon their darkness. Right? Everyone has an inner darkness, a side of themselves that they do not wish to acknowledge. A shadow, if you will. No. Because, again, I honestly do think that I think it's only if you have a kind of a disdain for Atem and think he's just a giant hypocrite in general that you would take that stance, right? I don't think Atem's a hypocrite. I think Atem is... Well, he's human. He gets shit wrong. The problem is that in a lot of discourse, it feels like a very us versus, one versus, us versus them kind of a mentality. Instead of everything being nuanced, seeing everything as nuanced like we should, we look at it and we think, we are like, wow, or we're like, nah, on, this or that ideal. Because that, to me, has always been what the Orichalcos should have been about. A clash of ideals. Now, obviously, we're going to be talking about, I want to say it's in like 3 episodes, we're going to have a bit of dialogue, a paragraph of dialogue that basically just undermines everything. And for me, I'm sorry, yes, one plot point can absolutely fucking ruin everything. Mass Effect 3, he's saying says hello. Right? Because I'm sorry, the ending does actually fuck over the entire trilogy. Makes the entire trilogy less when you know what it's building towards. And what we're going to learn about Dartz next week, literally, next week from your perspective, is literally the same. It literally is the Mass Effect 3 ending. It just ruins everything. Oh, that is going to be a slog and a half to get through. I'm not even going to lie. But we'll go through it. We'll go through this in order. I didn't do the whole, cards and then stuff, because I knew what I wanted to talk about, and it works better to talk about it as the duel flows rather than to separate it like I have been doing like I did with On the Wrong Track and Fighting for a Friend. And will be doing for a duel with Dartz, because really we gotta talk about the duel and the backstory shit separate. Because if we don't, then it's gonna be kind of flip floppy. So we start off, and in the dub, Atem is absolutely correct. I mean, both versions are correct, right? Because Tristan and Honda both are basically are looking at this like it was freaking she did this to Joey, and both Anzu and Taya can't, are hesitant to accept that Honda literally says he will never forgive Mai for this. I guess that's why she can't be in the KC Grand Prix, because Tristan would be trying to punch her in the face for the entire thing. Until Joey elbows him in the stomach, and then that's the end of that. Again, the KC Grand Prix has no excuse not to have Mai in there. And that was a choice from the writers. I don't want to hear any fucking in-universe excuses. The writers chose to fuck Mai's character over. Just like they chose to have Mai basically off-screened in this episode, which, say it with me now, fridges are harder than Yami Merrick. And I mean that fucking sincerely. Again, it's one of those things where I'm just looking at this like, fuck off. And that was apparently with Heramos in her possession. Though, fun fact, because they off-screened Mai, we don't get to learn how that duel played out. Because, of course, we didn't. We could have made that part 1. But whatever. But anyways, hell, we could have trimmed a duel with Dartz. Why does a duel with Dartz need to be 6 episodes? From what I remember, it really didn't need it. Just like I don't need my phone interrupting me constantly. Oh. Not important. Sorry about that. Anyways, where was I? Right. So Maya's fridged. Rafael's still loyal to Dartz. Because in this sub, he says it's because it's his destiny. Yeah, no. Oh. Two things I should bring up. First of all, Rafael's more of an asshole to Mai in the sub. And also in the sub, I do like that Atem adjusts his deck in the elevator. There was just something appealing about that. Although, that begs the question, what was Yugi's plan, or Atem's plan, without Heramos? Because remember, Rafael hands him Heramos. Actually, I would have preferred it if Heramos being in Mai's possession, being dropped by Mai, was kind of like something where, was kind of an indicator of trusting Mai again, but whatever. I still say there should have been more follow-up with Mai. Also, then there's a bunch of apparently possessed rats that Seto helps save Anzu, Honda, and Jinochi from. It also looks like Seto keeps Joey from falling, which actually kind of plays into the whole he's more honorable thing. Although a couple of lines from Seto do bring that into question a little bit. Just a little. Not enough for me to go, they're backpedaling. They're backsliding, I would argue. Backpedaling would be, hey, this fucker's in our way, kick him in the balls and move on, kind of thing, right? Treating it like it would be easy. He doesn't treat it like it's easy. He wonders how Yugi is going to respond to him. He does. The reason I say it's backsliding, though, is Seto talks as if it's pointless to try and reason with Rafael. I disagree with that personally. But yeah. Also, I'm just going to go ahead and say it now, even though it's a note for episode 2. This episode definitely, this 3-parter definitely mistakes destiny for fate. Because they keep talking about you can't change your destiny and everything. And I guess I should say that fate is, that Rafael is mistaking destiny for fate, which is funny because I know a certain princess who all likes to challenge her fate and does so successfully. Anyways, also when Kaiba saves them from the rats, he has a rat pun. I smell a rat and his name's Dartz. It's like, really? Really, Seto? That's a little that's a little on the nose, you know? Anyways. So Raphael so then Raphael talks in the dub. Raphael talks about Brave Attack being a disrespectful card. No, it fucking isn't. So he basically starts similar. He brings out his guardian monsters. Backup Gardener and Grawl come out, but the next one to come out is actually Guardian Elma after activating Butterfly Dagger Elma. Now, I don't know if I recall explaining what the heck the Exodia loop was. Actually, yeah, I think I did when Gearfried the Iron Knight showed up. But to quickly reiterate, Royal Magical Library, Butterfly Dagger Elma, you equip it to Gearfried auto destroys it, the card auto goes back to your hand, and because the spell counters on Royal Magical Library keep getting replenished every time you activate a card, or it doesn't matter if it's destroyed immediately when Gearfried equips it, because it'll just keep coming back to your hand. I kind of wish there would be an errata where the card can only return to your hand once per turn, or you can only activate it once per turn. Actually, that would be the perfect way to balance Butterfly Dagger Elma. You can only activate this card once per turn. Put a hard once per turn on the card, and then like you can only activate Butterfly Dagger Elma once per turn. Then it's a hard once per turn, and boom, the loop doesn't work anymore. Or, I mean, granted, that's not going to change. That's not going to fix. That's only going to prevent the Royal Magical Library loop. But it's a solution. So then Atem uses MST to get rid of Gravity Axe, and then tries to get rid of Guardian Grawl with Curry Babylon. It doesn't work because Elmo was equipped with Guardian Shield, so that plan unfortunately failed. And then Raphael plays the Seal of Orichalcos, ending part 1. So then then Yugi uses Curry Bandit, which is actually a pretty useful card. Works a bit differently in the real card game than it does as in this episode, obviously, because instead of a quick effect of tributing it, it's literally you have to do it on your turn, and I think it's on the turn it's summoned too, which is just what? But whatever, that's cool. I also like that both Seto and Kaiba uh, complement Rafael. Hell, because the others are like because when Rafael uses Guardian formation to protect Elma, you know Tristan is like, "Oh, that's cowardly," and Kaiba's just like, "No, that's actually impressive because he's utilizing the full power of the Orichalcos." And I agree with that, right? You might as well call defense mode cowardly, which is just fuck off. So then Iatos shows up. Goes up, is consumed by darkness. Darkness. Keep that in point in the back of your mind. We'll be coming back to it a little bit later. And then Atem brings out Amulet Dragon. Hagen, which boosts itself through the power of 8 spell cards in Atem's graveyard, bringing Amulet Dragon up to 5,300, and that defeats Iatos. It's devastating for both versions, though I will admit I do prefer the way the pulse, the Orichalcos pulse happens in the sub. Also, Kaiba's just like, it's a glitch in the hologram. Oh, for fuck's sakes, Kaiba, come on. This is why Seto gets the points for the sub, you jackass. It's why the sub caught back up instantaneously. Like I literally talked about how last week how the dub shot ahead. Yeah, the sub has already caught back up. Gee, I wonder why. Also, don't expect the dub to be in the lead after next week. By the way. There's no way in hell you're going to convince me that a six-parter that I've had mixed feelings about in the dub is not going to be surpassed by the sub. Give me a fucking break. And don't even get me started on that final two-parter. That final two-parter might be a neither for both if I'm honest. But anyway, so then Guardian Deathsycthe shows up. And hoo boy, this thing is overpowered as fuck in the anime. So not only does its scythe give it attack points, it's equal to the number of monsters in Raphael's graveyard times 500, but it requires him to sack all of his guardian cards, which is just like, well, there's sacrilege for you, isn't there? Isn't it? And all that work you put for not all that work you put in last time to keep your monsters out of the graveyard, now you're just willingly sacrificing them, which was literally what consumed Atem last time. What? Yeah, sure, you've totally conquered the darkness in your heart, Raphael. In a pig's eye. Anyways. Actually, that literally was my last note in the dub for part 2. The hypocrisy is in Deathsycthe, because yeah, Deathsycthe needs to show up in regard when one of his guardians goes to the graveyard, and on top of that, he has to sack his other guardians, which will lead to a poetic final play. I'm not gonna lie about that, but we'll get there. So then Atem activates Underworld Circle. After basically declaring that as my note says, I actually do think Atem learned his lesson in this arc. Despite how much I hate the Spirit Quest, I do think he learned his lesson. I think Tamias coming back to him proves that he learned his lesson. I think so, anyway. Because the lesson was not, you're a frickin' hypocrite, Tem. It's, you have to start to learn to accept your opponent's darkness, which I actually think he has. Because that's what he's trying to do with Rafael. My opinion, So then he plays Underworld Circle, which leads us into part 3. So this is when we get at Rafael having to basically face his past. Because we learned that he was not willing to accept that his parents were dead, that his family was dead, that his parents and his siblings were dead. Which makes perfect sense. He was young as fuck, and it makes sense that even being on that island for 3 years would not actually allow him to fully get over it, especially if his relatives were being fucking jackasses about it, So no, I actually do think it's kind of poetic. I also like Yatos taking the skulls in the subversion. That is actually really, I like that symbolism there. I also prefer that Dartz is not telling Rafael to abandon Yatos. It's just implied that the Orichalcos forces him to abandon Yatos. As for Deathsycthe. So then which is funny because the only thing I like, the only thing I actually like about the dub version of Dartz in this vision is, yeah, Dartz won't abandon you, Rafael. He'll just use you. So Deathsycthe isn't destroyed. So then Deathsycthe is born out of Raphael's darkness. Atem uses zero gravity because Deathsycthe didn't get destroyed to try and keep himself from losing, which Deathsycthe just turns around and destroys both of his monsters. Then Atem brings out Dark Magician Girl, the Dragon Knight, 8, and then Raphael discards Monster Reborn in order to activate the Orichalcos Sword of Sealing to negate Tamias' effect. To negate Dark Magician Girl, the Dragon Knight's effect. Hecht, right? Which then leads to the reduction barrier play, which then allows Atem to use Spiderweb, a card I don't think we've seen before, but we'll see, I want to say, one more time. Which, unlike the 5Ds version, this one actually lets you pull a spell card out of your opponent's graveyard and activate it. Which is cool. So he pulls out Monster Reborn and uses it to revive Yatos. Then uses the Claw of Heremos to combine with Queen's Knight in order to create the Goddess Bow, which in the real card game has a really confusing effect for me. I'd have to look at it again. But in the anime, it effectively allows him to keep attacking if, and basically ignore damage calculation if the monster isn't destroyed at the end of the damage step. Right? In other words, you negate the being destroyed. It doesn't get destroyed by battle. If it keeps battling with another monster. And that's why Atem can do that, because they're equal strength, which means no life points are lost, right? So then Deathsycthe is defeated when Raphael runs out of cards in his hand. And the darkness is conquered. I do like that in the sub, the attacks clash. Requiem versus Psalm. Both are words for songs. Requiem is more of a lamentation, whereas Psalm is usually referred to as a song of praise. So, giving praise to heaven, for example, with Requiem kind of being a lamentation for the dead. I also like that Raphael in the sub calls out for Yatos, and that was what Atem was banking on. I knew it. You called out for Yatos at the end. That means your darkness is conquered. And then Rafael activates. It does a poetic surrender by activating Soul Charge. Now, if you're wondering, wait, how do you pay to lose? Well, Soul Charge actually lets you do that because he says costs us, I think in both versions actually. But no, what it is in the anime, Raphael is damaged for 500 life points per monster that he revived, meaning he took 2,000 damage, and with only 1,200 left, well, which is funny because in the real card game, he literally would have lost from full. Oh, so I imagine that's probably that, which is funny because that means the real world version has more of a drawback than the anime version when it comes to the damage. Actually, I don't know if can Soul Charge? Can monsters attack while they're in Soul Charge? Ooh, that is a good question. I need to look that up. Give me a moment. I will find that out. In the real card game... Oh, in the real card game, you can't conduct your battle phase the turn you activate it. So actually, it is more powerful in the anime, technically. Or to be more accurate, it has less of a... It has less of a detrimental effect. Heck, because, again, the monsters you bring back with Soul Charge are the ones that can't attack. Heck. And in the anime, it is you just lose 500 points. So... and then in the later anime, namely the Vrains era, you lose 1,000 points for every monster done. Yeah, it's basically the real world effect. Heck, the Vrains version is basically the real world effect. Heck, and fun fact, both Soul Charge is actually currently banned in both regions, both OCG and TCG. Hey, fun stuff. I should probably grab the image of Soul Charge while I'm here. Probably a bunch of other stuff too. Still. But still, you know. Yeah. So, then the seal fails to take Raphael. Which, I'm sorry, that's a plot. Well, okay. I want to say it's a plot hole. I really do. But admittedly, there is one way we can actually dance around the plot hole. Joey's soul was taken, but he also wasn't the one who activated the seal of Orichalcos. By the way, that's also how you make this thing about conquering the darkness in one's heart, by the way. You have some people actually succeed in conquering the darkness of their heart. Instead of just one person drowning in it, instead of only one person succeeding in conquering it, one person drowning in it, and then the other two just fucking not giving a fuck. Or the other three, excuse me, not giving a fuck. You know? Actually, that would have been funny if Alan had actually managed to keep his soul too. That would have been interesting. Could have been, actually, that could have been a neat twist on things too. Keep Valen around. And then it could be an army of duelists against Dartz. Although knowing Mai's luck, she would have been fridged in a different way in that case, wouldn't she? 5 more minutes. It's cat. Anyways, but yeah, that is effectively the end of fighting the Doma Musketeers. We're almost there, guys. We're almost there. Next week we duel Dartz. And then the week after that, we fucking end this garbage. I'm sorry, but I know I'm a broken record by this, but the dumb arc has gone down now that I've watched the sub. I'm sorry, but I know for some it's like watching the sub actually elevates this arc. I'm not on that list. I actively think this arc is worsened by the sub. I really do. I don't think this is a good arc. And again, it's failed execution. It's not even that it's a bad premise or anything. This isn't even a bad premise with bad execution. No, this is a fantastic premise with bad execution, my opinion. You know? Because again, I could see elements of this thing working. I think I might have just contradicted myself because I might have said that, I thought this concept was dumb. Or was that just my turning to the dark side that I thought the concept was dumb? Yeah, no, because the concept of the Orichalcos is interesting to me. But my turning to the dark side and, to quote the dub again, leaving Joey for a madman who promised her power, only to get bodied by a fucking meathead, doesn't sit right with me. Because again, we didn't want a man to come and save Mai again. We wanted Mai to conquer, you know? Or at the very least, see that she got better. But no. Also, how does this arc remove the specter of Yummy Merrick from her? Or I gotta ask that because again, it is heavily implied by a lot of things. Means that is what happens at the end of this arc, but I don't know. I mean, we'll see. Hey, who knows? Maybe that's actually contradicted in some of the final dialogue from Mai in this arc or in the sub. But regardless, yeah, that's it for me. I don't like this arc. I don't like this arc, and I don't like this. Okay, sorry. I don't like this arc, but I do like this three-parter. I think this three-parter is good if you watch it in the sub. The dub is not terrible in my opinion. Then again, I can say that I've been saying that about the dub all along, but this isn't one of the dub's big failings, in my opinion, but it is definitely not one of its big success stories either. We are basically done with the dub's big success stories. Everything past this point of the dub getting the point is a shock. More of a shock than anything, you know? Still, I suppose that's it. 2 more weeks, guys. 2 more weeks, and then I'm finally done with this fucking arc, and I never have to touch this piece of fucking shit again. Because, spoilers for my writing, I'm never gonna touch this arc in my writing ever again, unless I actually get the boys together and we actually do a Yu-Gi-Oh rewrite. Because what's funny is that I know the boys basically said, "Oh, you don't really need to rewrite the original." No, I think you could rewrite but one thing is A, that's missing the point, and B, oh no, DM could use a heavy rewrite to make it better, especially if we go with the anime continuity, you know. But I might just keep going with it and then decide that later at some point. And hey, if that idea does crash and burn, and it never materializes, oh well, you know. I'm not gonna shed any tears because to be honest with you, I fell out of love with I have actually fallen out of love with Yu-Gi-Oh. Real talk, I have fallen out of love with Yu-Gi-Oh. I wish I could say it wasn't so, but it's so. I I know that probably upsets some people. And I get it. But I gotta be honest with myself and with you guys. I don't think Yu-Gi-Oh! Is a series that I enjoy anymore. I used to enjoy this show a lot, but going back through with a fine-tooth comb has really kind of just lowered my opinion. Which is funny because I almost feel like I gained an appreciation through of Star Trek through Us of Debris and and through the Lore Runner. But I can't say the same for Yugioh. All of the analyses I have seen, all of the reviews I have seen of this series, and what it boils down to at the end of the day is I'm not a fan anymore. And that's a shame. That is such a shame. I know I should save that for, when I talk D-Sod, but who knows? Maybe going back through D-Sod will remind me why I enjoy this franchise again. Hell, maybe GX will perk me up. Or 5Ds. But the DM main series is something I'm probably never going to watch again. I may watch bits and pieces. I may watch an arc here or there. But the whole show? No. And especially not this fucking arc, I can tell you that much. Because there's nothing the sub of a Duel with Dartz can do to fix that. But that's something to get into more so in the next 2 videos. Till then, this is Blue Wolf Alex of the Lore Walkers signing out. Have a good one. 2 more videos and then the Dome arc's done, guys. Later.